We're going to discuss a hot topic on the interwebbings. Janus motorcycles. Are they dangerous? And are they at fault for Doodle on a bike having an accident? Now, I want to be clear on something here. I'm a big fan of Doodle on a bike. I think she does amazing things for women on motorcycling, and she also is a really good rider. She's very experienced. She goes out of her way to learn as much as possible about riding as she can, which is fantastic. She's probably a much better rider than I am. She's done more trips, more experience at doing different types of riding than I have. So first off, I don't think Doodle's at fault for the accident on the motorcycle. And secondly, I am going to disagree with Yummy Noob on this one, and I'm going to say I don't think the bike is at fault. Here's my reason why I don't think that motorcycle is the reason that Doodle had an accident. I do agree with Yummy Noob that bike is not a modern bike. It doesn't have modern things on it, okay? And that's fine. It's not built for that. But it also then entails a different style of riding. I'm on Tony's VFR 800 from 2002 that has got linked front and rear brakes. It's got big bulbous tyres on it. It's got big disc brakes. It's got fantastic engine braking. And this bike is invariably, if I crash on it, it's probably a mechanical failure or me being a complete and utter plonker. So here is my thoughts on the Janus. First of all, I think the name rhymes with anus just a little bit too much. Janus, anus, Janus. I don't like the name. I'm going to be honest. I don't like your name, Janus. But I can understand that's why you called your bike what you called it. Actually, I can't understand. I don't know why you called it that. I'm sure, hopefully, someone from Janus will message me and say this is the origin of the name Janus and the reasons why. I do think you build a pretty bike. I very much like old bikes and old technology. I'm a big fan of it. I talk about why people should buy older bikes on my channel all the time, and the fact that you can maintain them yourself. I've now, after watching Yummy Noob's video, watching Moto News or whatever they're called, the guy from Cleveland Moto podcast, also a great podcast, very funny, well worth listening to, blokes know what they're on about. I've had a watch of all of these videos about the Janus accident with Doodle. I've seen all of Doodle's videos about it and what she has to say, and fundamentally the rider is the person who knows, or is most likely to know, why that accident or that incident happened. I've ridden bikes, I've crashed bikes, and 9 times out of 10, after the adrenaline's dropped and I've sat down and ruminated for a period of time why I had that accident, quite often I can say it's because of something I did or something that was done on the bike or blah 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 blah. She has never once said that the motorcycle in question is at fault for her accident, and I honestly believe, as an experienced rider, if she thought that bike was dangerous, or she thought for 1 minute that bike was the reason she had an accident, I think she'd come out and say it. I think she would come out and say it because she would understand the importance of letting people know how a motorcycle is, or if a motorcycle is dangerous. And she hasn't said that. She hasn't said it. She just simply, they looked at crash investigators looked at the footage, they looked at the road surface, and they come to the conclusion it was an absolute freak occurrence. Everything was right on that day for that quite horrible incident to happen. I think it's unfair of Yummy Noob to take that bike and pull it to pieces like he did, saying it's just cheap Chinese junk. They do use Chinese engines, and I do not like Chinese technology. But here's the thing, Honda, a company that I'm a fan of, don't make their own engines anymore. Honda make their engines in, I believe, Indonesia now, okay? Triumph do not make all of their bikes in the United Kingdom. Some of their bikes are made in India, okay? So lots of people are moving manufacturing of their vehicles to third world countries or countries with a smaller economy or a cheaper workforce to save in manufacturing costs, because manufacturing in the West is very, very expensive. Does this sometimes preclude that quality is cut short. Yes, in some cases it can do. But that Chinese engine, I don't know that Chinese engine. I would love to get my hands on one and rip it to pieces and have a look inside. But we don't know if Janus have a deal with that Chinese manufacturing plant that they manufacture stuff at a particular level of quality. They may dictate to that Chinese manufacturer that they must use this quality piston and this quality conrod and this quality metal in their gearing. We don't know. I'd like Janus to tell me if they do, or whether they've just tested the engine so well that they don't need to do that. Now, I did watch the interview with the owner of Janus and one of the chief designers, and he said he'd ridden that Halcyon 250 coast to coast in America. That's a lot of miles, and that engine never give up on him. So yes, it's a Chinese engine. Is it as good quality as some of the other manufacturers that may make their own engines in different parts of the world? No. KTMs are built in Austria, and let's face it, their engines are shit. Okay, so I think, Yummy Noob, you're unfair calling out Janus in that respect. And when I watched the video yesterday of the manufacturing process of these I'm actually going to say they're an elite motorcycle. They've sold so few of them, they are elite hand-built bikes. That's what they are. You don't buy that bike with the intention of dailying on it. You're not doing that. You buy that bike with the intention of doing classic style motorcycle riding on. In this country we call them A and B roads, mainly B roads, which are roads that are small and old-fashioned, because you don't want to be on the highway on a bike like that. It's not highway built. So on that note, I think that Janus are trying to captivate something that no other manufacturer is. I really like flat tanker motorcycles. I was once lucky enough to ride a Norton Manx. Guy come to a workshop that I used to work in, and he had a Manx Norton, and I cheekily said to him, can I have a go on that please? And he went, of course you can, Chris, just don't crash it, it's worth thousands and thousands of pounds. And he talked me through how to ride that bike, all the things that I had to do, like I had to manually oil it, so I'd sort of have to count to 50 seconds or 20 seconds, I can't remember what it was now, it's nearly 10 years ago, and I would then have to lean down and pump this little oiler to put oil on the valves that would then drip down onto the lifters and all that sort of thing. He also said when braking, you need to be aware that on your bike you might stop in a few yards. On this you need a few hundred yards. Now those blokes used to race them around the fastest, most dangerous race in the world, the Isle of Man TT, hence the name the Manx TT. Excuse the wind, it's very windy in the UK today, although we've got a little bit of sunshine, it's been raining all day. But the experience I got from riding that bike was something you can't just get from any bike. I couldn't walk into a main dealer now and buy a motorcycle that would give me that experience. And I think Janus are trying to captivate that. They're trying to give the rider a more visceral feel for their ride. And do you know what? I don't think it's fair to hate on them for that. I think what we should actually be doing is celebrating the fact that out there somewhere is a manufacturer that has a process that they're following that builds old style looking bikes and also encourages you to work on your own motorcycle. We live in a world now where if you buy a brand new bike, in the owner's handbook it will tell you don't lick the battery terminals and don't drink the coolant. Because we live in a world of stupidity. Janus actively encourage you to service your own bike. They have videos on their channel explaining to you, here's how you do your oil change, saving you thousands of pounds a year with service bills. I think that's cool. I think that takes us back, that harps us back to the turn of the century, the last century obviously, because we're now in the 2000s, the turn of like the 20th century, when Harley Davidson and Indian and Crocker and Triumph and Norton and BSA all started building bikes. And they would tell you, you'd get a book and it would tell you how often you need to do a service interval on that motorcycle. Oh, just to let you know, every 3,000 miles you need to check your valve clearances, and here's how you do it. and they were cool looking things, and I do get the fact that the frames and the suspension on those bikes is outdated and hideous compared to the frames that we've got nowadays. There's stress member frames and Öhlins shocks, progressive shocks, electronically controlled damping shocks, which is all good if when you get on your motorcycle you want it to be like a refrigerator, and I don't. I would love to have a go on a Janus. Watching Doodle have that accident was quite upsetting, actually. I'm a big fan of Doodle. I think she's really cool, man. But it wouldn't put me off riding the bike. I don't think for 1 minute the bike was at fault. I had a look. I was watching a YouTube video of theirs earlier on, and I weld. I can TIG weld and I can MIG weld, and I can TIG and MIG to a reasonable standard. Am I a professional TIG and MIG welder? No, I'm not coded, but I could weld something. In fact, actually, I have welded stuff that's structural, because me and the blokes at work built a recovery truck, and to put that recovery truck on the road, we had to have our welds inspected before it would get its ticket. And all of our welds were structurally sound. And I had a look at Janus's welding, and they're handmade, those frames, by a person. And yes, their welding, if you was being a picky git, could be better. But I didn't see much of an issue with it. There was a little bit of an undercut on the start, and towards the end I think the welder got a little bit tired. There was a little bit of a build-up of weld where they'd obviously slowed their rate down, but other than that it was reasonably even, and you could see that it had the right amount of penetration. So I don't think their frames are dangerous either. And as for their front fork system, that front fork system, BMW still use that system on some of their modern bikes. They've just added slightly more modern technology into it. So the front fork system, and I'm going to address Yummy Noob again, that doesn't mean that's a dangerous front fork system. It just means it's a different front fork system. It's a different suspension system to what you're used to, which means you have to learn to ride that motorcycle. You have to be specific on how that motorcycle rides and what that motorcycle is going to feel like and what response it's going to give you. If you want to ride all the best motorcycles in the world, all the best technology in the world, then just keep buying your new stuff, your BMW GS's, your BMW RT's, your V-Stroms, you know, keep buying your brand new stuff, your Triumph Tigers and all those sorts of things. They're not going to give you a visceral feeling. They're not going to give you feedback. They're not actually, I don't care what anyone says, going to give you a big shit-eating grin on your face. They are not. They're not going to do it. What gives you a big shit-eating grin on your face is a motorcycle that sometimes will make your bumhole pucker up and go, "Ooh, that was a little bit gnarly." Or I had to control that. I had to get off the gas or give it more gas, or I had to apply a little bit of front brake or a little bit of rear brake to bring that all back into a line. Or I had to move my body around to change the weight of the bike and move it around that bend. That's part of riding a motorcycle. Otherwise, you might as well buy a Nissan Juke, hadn't you? So, in conclusion, for my Janus thoughts, and Janus, please, if you've got any in the UK, please hit me up and try and arrange a ride. I really would like to give a ridden opinion of your motorcycle. First of all, I think they look really cool. There are a couple of little things that I would change if I was building that bike, but I'm not building it. It's not my company, and so therefore my opinion is invalid on what they look like, because the other customers really like them. I like the fact that the paintwork's all quite cool. They have everything powder coated, so in theory the paintwork should be really robust on those bikes, more robust than the paintwork on anything you're buying out of a main dealer now. If I'm honest, this road is sketchy as hell. Jesus. I'm riding down a B road right now, and there is more tree in the road than there actually is above me. I'm going to move over very carefully, very delicately, holding on for dear life to the left-hand side to open up this corner, but very slowly, because I can't show you the road right now, but it's dog shit. And in regards to the tyres, Yummy Noob made a comment about the tyres that they used. Yeah, they might not be using modern technology tyres, but as the owner, you can change that. You can go to a manufacturer and go, I want modern tyres with modern technology, and I'm going to change them. Janus have used those tyres, probably one for cost reasons, if they're a little bit cheaper, which all manufacturers do, and number two, because it gives the style that they're looking for. Like when people build choppers nowadays, they put Shinko tyres on. Are Shinko tyres as good as Michelin's? No, they're not. They're just not. I'm sorry, Shinko, your tyres are cool, but they're not going to be as good as a Michelin Pilot Road 6 or an Avon Cobra Chrome, because they haven't got the technology they have, but they look the part. And some people are not looking to go flying around bends on turboed Hayabusas or straight line as fast as they can on turbo Hayabusas. Some of them are looking for a more old-fashioned style of riding, a particular sensation that you can only really get off of old bikes. Now, Janus isn't an old bike; it's a new bike. And if you get on that bike and you try hooning it around, you're sort of at the mercy of stupidity. You know, I've never seen the owner of Janus say, just to let you know, you can take this bike on a track day and smash it around a track day. He doesn't once suggest that that's a good idea. And the reason is because it's not a track bike. It is what it is supposed to be. A bespoke built, or very close to being very bespoke built, handmade American motorcycle with some foreign parts. Yeah, I get that, but let's take a Harley Davidson apart, a company that I'm very fond of, and see how many parts are made in China or how many parts are made in Taiwan. Yeah, because I bet there is. I bet there's a lot. And in fact, actually, when I looked at the manufacturing process of Janus that they put out, and they were showing the parts that they had made, the quality looks really good. It looks really good. I worked in an engineering workshop, and I've used mills and lathes and CNCs, and you know, it can be really difficult to get a fine finish on a lathe when you're machining parts. It can be really difficult to get a really nice finish, and I think they've achieved that. Some of the nuts and bolts that they were showing, the hardware that they had to have specially made, was actually really quite cool. Really nice machined looking quality parts done by a medical company who makes medical equipment. So that's not cheap crap, is it? The spindle bolt, I've taken a lot of spindle bolts out of motorcycles, and I don't think I've ever seen a spindle bolt with the machining quality that their spindle bolt had. I'd love to know what it's made out of. This taxi driver wants to get quite close to me, but I'm doing 40 in a 40 mile an hour zone. I think he should go away and bugger his own hat. So that really is the thoughts I'm having on Janus. Yummy Noob is no moron. Okay, he's been a YouTube motorcycle person for quite a long time. He knows how to ride a bike. He's ridden a lot of bikes. He's had his hand in a lot of things. So he's not an idiot. I just think he's being a bit unfair. And I think he should actually, as an American company trying to keep Americans in their work, I think he should be encouraging Janus to continue building their bikes, and just like Top Gear used to do with the really small companies like Zonda and stuff like that, when they used to test ride their bikes, rather than browbeating the crap out of them, I think what you should do is give them constructive feedback and say, I think if you did this to your bike, you could keep the look, but the handling might come a little bit better. Or, I don't think you've done this very well, and if you did this, the handling might become a little bit better, because a small company like that needs feedback. And let's face it, you could today go and spend £20,000 on a brand spanking new Ducati Multistrada, and within 2 or 3 months that could have an electrical fault. I'm not picking on you, Ducati, it's just an example. Just because you buy an expensive newer bike doesn't mean it's not going to have manufacturing processes, manufacturing problems and issues with certain things. I worked for Toyota for a year in a main dealer at Toyota, and Toyota had callbacks, one of the best manufacturers in the world of automotive technology, and they had callbacks for faulty goods. That's what they had. And why is that? Because stuff goes wrong. Stuff goes wrong. I mean, I'm sure, or I'd like to hope to think, that Janus took that bike that Doodle had an accident on back to the workshop, and they pulled it to bits. and they checked head race bearings, and they checked wheel bearings, and they checked lever bushes, and they checked all the brake components, and they checked the alignment of the wheels to make sure that the chassis hadn't been built on the jig pist, which is quite possible. Harley Davidson, is it their FXDs or their FXRs, very similar bike, they had a thing where they call it the death wobble, where you'd be riding along the motorway and the next thing you knew, your rear wheel was trying to overtake your front wheel and you were being spat off the bike. And that is a 120-year-old company, not quite 120 years, but they're over a 100-year-old company, and in the 80s and 90s, right up actually till the late 90s, they had this problem. The customer feedback as well, from what I've seen, because I've looked at it, the customer feedback from Janus, all the customers that have bought their bikes are really happy with them. Some of them have put some serious mileage down on their bikes as well. We're talking 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 miles down on their bikes. And I know people that have got really capable machines and they don't put that down. Most of them will be lucky to put 1,000 miles down a year. If I don't go, my bike needs servicing and MOT, it's only done 500 miles. Sorry, I was just appreciating his flag. So yeah, I sort of think Janus, hats off to Janus, hats off to a man and a team, or people in a team trying to make something in a world now which is dominated by corporations and billion-dollar funding, and tries to create something that is just different. I think keep going, Janus. There are companies in the UK that do things that are similar, and I just think keep going. Don't let the bad report or the bad publicity bring you down. I mean, for me, terrible what happened to Doodle on a bike. I hope that she completely recovers. Massive fan again. Like, love her videos, love what she does. My missus watches it with me. I love the way that she encourages people to learn how to pick their bikes up properly and go and do all these slow and controlled manoeuvring courses with the police and with that lady that does all the BMW stuff, and demonstrates that just because you're 5 foot nothing and weigh 8.5 stone doesn't mean that you can't ride a big powerful motorcycle, and if you drop it, be capable of picking it up. So hats off to her, and again, speedy recovery, Doodle. Those are my thoughts. My final thoughts is, number one, Janus are clearly a company that are trying to build something that gives you a visceral experience, and for that I'm a big fan of them. And I think, you know, let's keep hoping that they keep building their bikes. I love bespoke built cars and bikes. I think they're a fantastic thing, and I think more people should do it. More people should give people the opportunity. I'd love to be able to have the finances to build a British style motorcycle that I could sell in the same sort of way that Janus does. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's been a pleasure to be able to talk to you all again.